When it comes to John Mayer's modern tone, the comparison that's most often made is between the Sob Rock tour tone and the 2019 World Tour tone. And when you listen to the tone of both tours, they are very different. The 2019 World Tour has a lot more gain, is a lot more kind of raw and in-your-face sounding, where John's tone during the Sob Rock era was a bit more laid back, so to speak, and a bit smoother sounding with a lot less gain compared to the 2019 World Tour. So I thought today it'd be really fun to take the outro solo of Slow Dancing in a Burning Room and compare the tone that John was getting from the 2019 World Tour to the Sob Rock World Tour, and for you guys to let me know in the comments down below which tone you prefer. Now, obviously, in a perfect world, we would have professionally recorded audio for both of these clips, but the reality is we just don't. So this tone shootout is just a fun kind of test to see, in comparison of what the tones sound like. And you guys will get enough of an idea from these two clips. And although keep in mind too that the recording devices that the people used at the time of, when these clips were shot and where they were also sat in the stadiums and arenas that John performed in does affect the sound slightly as well. But you guys will get enough of an idea of what this sounds like. And to state the obvious as well, John's tone for both tours was absolutely incredible. They were both awesome in their own way. So this is not, trying to say one tone was bad and one tone was really good or anything like that. They both were great, but they're both different, and, you definitely might have a preference as to which one you prefer. So with that all said and done, let's get into the tone shootout. We're going to take a look at the 2019 World Tour's example first, then the Sob Rock era's example next. Now, one thing I didn't realize until I started comparing these clips side by side is that the Slow Dancing in a Burning Room outro solos during the 2019 World Tour, on average at least, were considerably longer than they were during the Sob Rock era, which I find pretty interesting that John kind of opted to go a little bit less solo heavy perhaps during this tour. I'll have to go back and compare some other solos as well between the two eras to see if that's a common theme, and maybe the solos were a bit just shortened in length, but especially for Slow Dancing in a Burning Room, at least I went back and actually looked at some other examples and compared them as well, and it definitely does seem to be the case for this one example. That said, I think you guys can agree with me when I say that the tones in both of the examples I provided for you guys today are great. You know, the 2019 World Tour and the Sob Rock World Tour both sound fantastic, and I think it's really incredible to say that John has never had a bad tone. It's always been, okay, this one's like really good, and then this one is just stupidly good. When you're comparing different eras, for example, they're all great, and that's, you know, one of the best things about John is that his tone is always just on point. There's just varying levels of how on point it is. It's either stupidly good or incredibly good. You guys know what I'm trying to say here. But for me personally, at least, I do kind of prefer the 2019 World Tour sound just because it's a little bit different than what we're used to hearing from John, at least. There's, again, a bit more gain. The solos are just a bit more, the tone's just a bit more aggressive sounding, and I do think that is in part to John relying on the third overdrive when it comes to these bigger outro solos. And for those of you guys who are unaware, generally John's lead formula is Tube Screamer and Klon Centaur, and it's like that for both the 2019 World Tour and the Sob Rock era. However, during the 2019 World Tour especially, John would have a third overdrive that he would stack with the TS10 and the Klon Centaur in order to just add more gain, more volume, and just make these outro solos incredibly massive sounding. And I think a pedal like the Mesa Boogie Flux 5 really kind of added to that overall formula and played a big part in those outro solos tone overall. So I think that's kind of the gear aspect of a lot of the difference between the two eras. I think just the gain stacking was a lot more, there's a lot more gain stacking going on for that era versus Sob Rock, where again, it's a little bit more mellow, the tone's a little bit more smoother overall, and some of you guys might prefer that. But again, just two different examples of tones, and even though he's playing very similar amps and similar guitars, you know, both Silver Skies we just saw in those clips, the tone you guys can just tell is rather different. And let me know again in the comments down below which one you prefer. And once again as well, I'm not saying one of these is a bad sound at all. It's just really cool, I think, to go and compare the two. And another one that I might do if you guys enjoy this video, and let me know if you want this in the comments down below as well, is For Belief, because that intro solo that John plays for Belief, especially ever since Where the Light Is came out, that's always been another benchmark of his sound. Okay, well, what does Belief sound like, especially that introduction? And I think the tone for that during the Sob Rock era was just maybe the best ever in my opinion, and I really want to now go back and actually listen to the 2019 World Tour and see what it was like for Belief during that era. So let me know again in the comments down below if you guys want to see that, because I can definitely make that happen and maybe do a mini tone shootout series, because this is just a fun and bit of a different video than I normally do. So with that all said, if there's any other eras and any other songs you guys want me to make a video like this comparing the two different tones and discussing them a little bit, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, guys, really appreciate the support you guys have given my channel. If you liked today's video, as always, please consider subscribing to the channel. You're going to get recommended my content no matter what for viewing it, but the subscription at least just lets me know that I'm doing a good job and to keep doing what I'm doing. If you just really enjoyed the content and want to support the channel, it goes a long way. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. Take care, and we'll see you on the next one.
Anyway, go ahead and click the subscribe button if you like what you see.